Adam Mockler is a commentator on the MeidasTouch Network and also the host of the Adam Mockler Show, or as they say, the eponymously named show. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for
on
having
YouTube,
me on.
Right?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Let's chat.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you in studio, actually in my house. How do you feel about what's going on now? I mean, what are you, like, you're a young guy. You started as kind of a gamer, or you did gamer videos?
Yeah.
And then?
Let me run you through the story, because we were just talking about this. But when I was like 9 years old, I created the YouTube channel that I currently run. I created it when I was 9. I used to make all these gaming videos of me playing Minecraft or Call of Duty. And in doing so, I picked up these editing skills. I became really editing savvy at a young age. Little did I know, a decade later, those skills would be really useful. But then in 5th grade, I remember getting sent down to the principal's office because I was debating my teacher on gay marriage. I always loved debating, editing videos, all of these things, right? And then I went to high school, stopped making videos because I wanted to get girls. I didn't want to be the Minecraft guy. And then I graduated and I realized, wait a minute, there's a vacuum out there. I have video editing skills and debate skills. I can talk to people. I'm affable. Why don't I go to a Trump rally and try to convince people to come to my side? So I did that. And there's this viral clip of me debating this Trump voter. And he says, let's stop funding Ukraine. Let's put America first. And I go, well, funding Ukraine is how we put America first. We're protecting our allies. We're helping our economy. And then it started to go more and more viral. And I realized all of these skills that I built when I was young are now coming back in this new way. And then you asked me how I'm feeling broadly. Like, over the past week, it's been crazy because of Charlie Kirk. But
yeah. Well, there is that. But I want to talk about those skills, because the skills that you honed as a 9-year-old, as a child, really, as a 9-year-old, I think it is now in play, that you're able to use it because people want real news. Like, they want real people. They are not interested in sort of stodgy, canned questions and people who have a list of things and they're not listening to the answer. They're just, looking for the next question. Do you feel that that's so?
Yeah, I think people want personalities they can connect to, build a sort of parasocial relationship to, is what they call it, when you watch someone over and over and you kind of begin to know them almost. And people like strong personalities. Right now on air, and this isn't, I'm not trying to sound arrogant or put anyone down, but there's a lot of like not strong, boring personalities that are put on cable television. And people are looking for someone who they can relate to even further. And then before you know it, I'm sitting in my I went to college in Chicago and I lived with a family member. I had like the small room off the side. I was literally pulling in hundreds of millions of views just sitting in this tiny room with a camera in my corner, which is crazy. It's crazy how the digital landscape has changed to such an extent that we can pull the numbers we do sitting in the corner of a bedroom.
Interesting. Let's talk politics now.
Let's talk politics.
Did you hear about Kamala Harris's new book?
I did hear about it. 107 days. She's on a press tour right now.
Yeah, I know. What do you? I'll tell. Little secret. I got a phone call this morning after I finished my live show, and it was someone I knew from the Harris campaign, and I was just talking to her like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she goes, "I have a surprise for you." I said, "Okay." And then I won't give away everything, but she said, "Why haven't you called me for marriage advice?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Madam Vice President!" And we had a nice conversation, and we got disconnected because of bad cell phone service.
That is, how mad were you?
I was mad, but we were at the end of the conversation, so that's all I'll tell about the conversation. But
you can hit her back up for marriage advice. That's what you got to do.
I need some marriage advice. I know that's the way to get her now. But what do you think about the book? There are those who are saying, "Man, you know what? She's burning bridges. This is bad for the Democratic Party. Why is she doing this?" I don't feel that way, but you tell me how you feel.
Can anything be bad for the Democratic Party when we're at our lowest popularity ever? I think when a crisis happens, like a loss or a pandemic or a bankruptcy, that is the opportunity to look at what went wrong in the party, in the business, in the election or whatever, and try to fix things from there. So Kamala Harris going in and surgically picking out people she thought didn't treat her well, I think that's a good direction to push the party. Now, I mean, right now the Democratic Party is kind of at a crossroads. Which direction are we going to go? Is it going to be like a Zohran Mamdani firebrand, or are we going to return to a more like resistance type Newsom that we're going to do? And I think Kamala Harris getting out there, number one, she's doing a book tour, but number two, it feels like she's trying to still put her thumb on the scale of the party. She was asked last night on Rachel Maddow if she endorses Zohran. Did you see that clip?
I did.
What did you think of it?
I did. And let's run it.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race, sure. But let me just say this. He's not the only star. I know that, he's in New York, and I know New Yorkers think they're the center of the world, and here we are in New York having this interview.
It is the biggest city in the country.
And I love New York, as the saying goes. I really do. But, I mean, there are people like Barbara Drummond in Mobile, Alabama.
So, I mean, very clearly she said, I support whoever the nominee is for the Democratic Party. I don't know why it's so hard for the leaders of the Democratic Party to say that now, but I mean, she just said, yeah, of course, I support him. What did you think of the answer?
I think she did well. I think she honestly, it was kind of lukewarm. It was a lukewarm endorsement, in my opinion, and that's fine. She can do whatever she wants. But she mentioned Zoran, not by name. She says, I support the candidate. And then she did boost up a few other really good mayoral candidates from other states, which I really did appreciate that as well. But she seemed kind of hesitant. Did you feel that?
I know, I read it differently. I read it as though she was right because New Yorkers are so myopic. Like, we think we are the center of the universe. And she says she's right. Not every district in the country, Democratic or Republican or whatever, it's not like New York.
Yeah.
Right. And everything doesn't work. One formula or one person doesn't work for everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think she was like, whoever the nominee is, I will support the nominee. And I think that was more of a, that was more of a hit to the party saying, get behind your candidate. But she's like, there are other places that are out there that are important. And Rachel did push back. She said, yeah, but it's the biggest city in the country. Mm-hmm. If not, well, not the world, Mexico City's big, but it's the biggest city in the country.
I think another thing that Kamala's new press run has really helped me realize is that her campaign, I mean, she's being a lot more free now than she was on her campaign. I feel like she's being more personable and affable.
Didn't Hillary do that?
After the campaign?
Yeah, because have you met Hillary Clinton?
No.
Okay, so when you meet Hillary Clinton, you're like, and then you see her on the stage or on television, you're like, well, where is the lady that said, oh my God, Don, I loved your book, and let me tell you which part I learned. And then Bill walks over and says, yeah, and then you wrote about this. It's like, we have to get together. You and Chelsea's birthday are the same, and they're both. And I'm like, where is this woman, right? Yeah. But I hate to criticize a woman because it's a double standard. But she's more affable. She's warmer in person and very likable. On television, I find her to be a bit cold, except for now.
Yeah.
I think she's warmed up.
And you're right. You touched on this, but women are facing an uphill battle in politics that a lot of men aren't, not just in politics, in the world, in the workplace. But I do think Donald Trump's, the way he speaks in this free-flowing manner, I think that benefits him. I know that him being, I know he's very performative, right? But he seems more authentic than most Democratic politicians. Yep. And the Kamala Harris that I saw in Rachel Maddow met that level of authenticity. I wish that they would have unleashed her a bit more on the campaign trail. And Tim Walz.
Yeah, I said the same thing, but because I feel like they sort of clamped down on Tim Walz. And also, I think Kamala Harris wanted to be a bit safe because of the timeline. And she talked about that. It was such a condensed timeline. Excuse me. And it was such pressure. So, I think she felt all of those things. But I think the key to anything, if you're going to, do what we're doing now, if you're going to be in the sort of television-esque business, whether it's digital or whatever it is, if you're going to be a personality, you have to be authentic, or people are, people don't like boring.
It's probably part of the reason people do gravitate towards us. Going back to the issue that we were talking about before is like, why do we have such a big reach? Because we're authentic, we're ourselves. And I think people are really beginning to see that.
Yeah. But I also, what you said about Donald Trump is, he says what he wants to. And so there are people who are, like people like David Axelrod are saying, oh, this is not good. Why is she doing that? And there are others. This isn't a good strategy for the party or for her. I don't understand why she's doing it. But that's exactly what Donald Trump does. He criticizes people he doesn't like or who aren't kind to him or he thinks has slighted him in some way. Why can't she do that?
Yeah, and I think that, number one, the Democratic Party is too risk-averse, not just Kamala, but Axelrod is a good example. The risk-averseness of not being able to put yourself out there is really, really ruining us, especially for young dudes my age who like a little bit of edge. We like someone who's authentic. There's a lot of Democrats who aren't authentic. But what was your question? You asked me to step wrong.
No, why can't she do what Donald Trump does? Why can't she be as authentic, and why can't she, say, this person didn't treat me fairly, or we could have done this better, or that person could have done this, but why can't she just be honest like that? That's what they need.
Black women in society are held to like unreasonable expectations.
You don't say.
And Donald Trump is held to no literally, Donald Trump has zero expectations. So when you're matching these two up, Donald Trump can go out there and like shit himself on stage. And
Yeah.
if Kamala Harris looks the wrong way, those two things are equivalent to people. Like,
well, I love it when people say, Don, I can't believe you said that, Don Lemon. I'm like, did you hear what Donald Trump said? Like, he said you can grab a woman by the pussy. I mean, come on, give me a break.
The double standards are insane. So Donald Trump went on stage after Erica Kirk and said, you know what? I do hate my enemy. I do hate the other side. And then I covered that and I said, he's being a little bit like not only inflammatory, but this is authoritarian, the way he speaks. And people, Republicans, were saying that I was divisive for saying authoritarian. How are we living in this reality where we've inversed it?
Yeah.
Like, and he can say whatever he wants, and then I'm the,
As we're taping this, I'm getting criticized for criticizing the people who I feel disrespected Charlie Kirk by making it a political rally and about policy rather than honoring the memory of the person. And I said, it looked like it was full religious nationalism on display. And there was a Fox News anchor who said, yes, there was religion and there was nationalism. But does that necessarily make it religious nationalism? And I said, yeah.
When Stephen Miller is frothing at the mouth and about to like pop a blood vessel, we're probably getting to a nationalism point right here.
Okay, back to Kamala Harris.
Can I ask you a question about Kamala?
Yeah.
What did you think about her answer regarding Pete Buttigieg?
Oh, well, that will probably cause a little controversy. I understood where she was coming from.
Yeah.
And I think that, the purity test for Democrats is just unbelievable. I hate that term woke because I think obviously it's been co-opted, but I think you have to read the room and you have to realize the moment that we're in right now. And the moment that she was in at that point, the biggest issue I said was, and the most successful political ad in history, at least reportedly in modern history, is that transgender.
Yep, they, them.
And so they're part of the LGBTQ plus community. And so what do you think they do with Pete Buttigieg in that moment? You know what I mean? And it's not that she doesn't support. She's been very supportive of the LGBTQ community. She's performed gay marriage. She was one of the first people in the country to do it. And I know that she's very supportive of, LGBTQ community and gay people because she's very supportive of me.
Yeah.
She gave me marriage advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's in an interracial marriage. I'm in an interracial marriage. So, I mean, she gets it. So I don't think that she's being, biased or prejudiced or any of that. I just think in the timeline that she had, she made the best choice that she thought that she was making. And she said in the interview, we can discuss whether I was too careful or not, or whether I was right or wrong about that. But those are the things that were of concern to me. And I think she's exactly right.
Intuitively, I think so too. You'd have to be very, very uncharitable to think that she was saying something about like the gay community. I've seen people online imply that.
No.
But the normal explanation is that she had 107 days and she was trying to be risk averse, like we were just saying, and she read the room and understood that. I do think the purity testing in the Democratic Party needs to be obliterated. It needs to be gone. And I understand, like, purity testing somebody who's an actual racist, that's different. Like, hey, you're a racist, get out of our coalition. But the idea that I can agree with people on 90% of things, and then I can, like, if I said to my audience that I think Kamala Harris was too risk averse on the campaign, people would actually get mad at me for saying that.
Oh, like, don't I know? Don't we know, right?
And it's like, I'm criticizing the least popular party ever. I can't. It's not about Kamala Harris herself. She did great, but the party as a whole needs to stop finger wagging, stop being so risk averse, have a little bit of edge.
Yeah, but look at the people they elevate in the Republican Party, and the people they stick behind. You can say basically whatever, and if you are a loud, strong, supportive voice of the Republican Party or the MAGA movement, you're not going to get canceled. They're not going to push you aside. Democrats don't do that. I mean, I always use Al Franken as an example. Like, what the hell was that? And they're still doing it now. And even, I like that Kamala Harris is respecting independent media. She's doing, independent media for her book tour, which I think is great. She may come on the Don Lemon show. I can't wait. Stay tuned. She's going to be on my friend Joy Reid's show. And so I think had she done that during the campaign, she might be president now.
It was a bit of an unforced error.
It wasn't her. It was her folks. But, I mean, she would probably tell you, I could have. But as she said with Joe Biden, maybe I should have said something. But I think it was a lot of pressure.
That was an unforced error. I don't know if it would have swayed the election, but I think that she would have had a huge edge culturally if she was in these cultural spots.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the whole Joe Rogan conversation, but that's like the prime example. You know what I mean? Like, and that situation is still muddy. I don't know who denied who, but like going on that podcast, and we need some liberal like Tallarico, Buttigieg, that are going on there and explaining why liberalism can be cool or why sticking up for these things can be cool. Because then when we leave that vacuum, Trump had a 3-hour Rogan interview. You know, Trump milked that for as long as he could.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And honestly, from the clips I saw, I watched like most of it, a lot of clips. He seemed very relatable during it. He really knew when to tone it down. And I wish Kamala would have gone in there, hindsight's 2020, and just been herself and like been, you know, tell some stories that you're allowed to tell from your prosecutor days and like when the
Yeah. Well, I wish she could be the person that when you see her in person or when you talk to her on the phone like that, but the rules are different for women. As with Hillary Clinton, I'm sure she had to appear presidential. She felt she had to appear presidential rather than motherly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Kamala Harris felt that she had to, be put on a certain air of professionalism and whatever, because I have noticed and experienced when I would do town halls with her, debates with her, right?
Posture?
Oh, no, but she was formidable. Like she would, ha, 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 ha. But then if there was a point she wanted to make, as you noticed with Rachel Maddow, she would just cut you right off and say, no, I need to make this point. But then in person, she's a whole kind of different thing. It's just it's her with a little more personality. But I'm glad you brought up Pete Buttigieg again, because I like Pete Buttigieg. I think he'd make a great president one day. I think that I would vote for Pete Buttigieg. But again, you have to read the room and realize the moment that you're in.
I think that it could be sooner than we think that the culture is ready for this, because
I think America's ready for it.
They are. Yeah.
It's with if we weren't in the Trump era, the MAGA era, I would say, boom, can I work for your campaign?
I agree.
But we are in the MAGA era, and you have to realize what you're fighting against.
It's also like the MAGA information era. Like if Pete Buttigieg tried to run, the stuff that they'd say about him would be disgusting, first of all. But I think the pendulum swings rather quickly nowadays due to social media. Like 4 years ago, people were complaining about BLM canceling them. And I remember this vividly because someone in my area, do you remember this when people were posting photos of them with their knee on their friend's neck and then they'd get fired from their job during the BLM era?
No, I don't remember.
These right-wingers were getting fired for making jokes about George Floyd, right? Like they just over and over, they would get fired and they'd complain about it. And this was justified. You should be firing people for that. But now, 5 years later, right when Republicans gain their cultural power, they immediately begin to fire people for even slightly criticizing Charlie Kirk. So it feels like the Republican cultural force right now, especially after Charlie Kirk, I see all my apolitical friends even posting stuff about Kirk. It's just pushing in such a direction where it's an uphill battle. But I think that America could be, I think that'd be a good one.
I think America is ready for it. I just think that we're in a very weird time right now. And I do agree with you about the pendulum. You said it always swings, but the pendulum doesn't swing when it's swinging from an extreme. It's not going to swing halfway. So it's going to swing all the way. So the person who's going to be the counter, and it's just physics, right? The person who's going to be the counter to a Donald Trump is going to be someone who has progressive values, who's not afraid to call Donald Trump out, who's not afraid to point out his hypocrisy. He's not afraid to point out that what's wrong with universal health care. Everyone in the country should have health care. It should be your right as an American. And I think that person is going to be the only person to be able to beat Donald Trump or a MAGA person, because people don't like boring, in the middle, moderate. It just does not work in this society anymore.
Newsom's kind of proving that. So he's using these tweets as a funnel for two reasons, in my opinion. He uses them to gain attention in the attention economy. He'll post a tweet, it gets like millions and millions of hits, right? But then he also is using it to drive a narrative about Prop 50. So there's two parts of it. After he gets millions and millions of views on these insane tweets, he is then able to drive a narrative with them about why Prop 50 works. So I think Gavin Newsom is beginning to kind of stumble. He's doing it intentionally, but Democrats are starting to stumble onto the style of politics that Republicans have been using for the past decade. And I think Obama inadvertently used too, the attention economy, dominating attention.
Right.
And right now, Gavin Newsom is proving that if you take Trump's framework and use it for more liberal ideas to gain attention and drive a narrative, it could hypothetically work. Now, we haven't seen the Prop 50 vote. We don't know the actual effects of his tweets, but I think the Democratic Party needs to understand attention, the game of attention. We can't have boring politicians out there, like you said.
we can have politicians out there also who are afraid of making mistakes. How many mistakes? I know that the rules are different for Donald Trump, but how many mistakes has Donald Trump made? A gazillion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And so, but the thing is that Democrats are obsessed with, it's their biggest flaw, with allowing their enemy or their critics to define them.
Yep.
Right? When no one can define them but them. So all one has to do is say, look, we know Al Franken. Al Franken's a strong voice for this party. And what he did was a joke. He's a comedian. You guys say we're trying to cancel comedians. We're standing by him because one mistake doesn't define someone's entire life and career. Next question, move on. And they wouldn't. Oh my God, we have to vote. What are we going to do? He needs to resign. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? And they do that about almost everyone, even those who are not politicians, and even those who are supporters of theirs.
Yeah, and over on the right, they will consolidate behind Trump at the end of the day, no matter what. Like, the problem with being so risk averse is that once you actually, if you're so afraid of making a mistake that you're that risk averse, once you actually do make a mistake, it gets so amplified that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When Donald Trump just bulldozes through like a bull in a china shop, he's like, oh, I'll say that I don't agree with Erica Kirk about her dead husband not wanting hate. And then I'm going to go and tweet some insane shit about Pam Bondi, saying that Pam Bondi needs to begin prosecuting my opponents. He doesn't care, and I think it works for him.
Then you're on to the next thing.
On to the next. And I don't know if we need a Democrat that is this insane and bolsterous. Like, I don't want that. I don't want blue MAGA, but I want someone aggressive. The projection of strength that the Democratic Party has lacked is something that I'm looking for, and I know a lot of people are looking for.
I just want someone who doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, I don't want blue MAGA, like you said, but I want someone like what Gavin Newsom is doing with his social media. I want that type of person.
Yeah,
that's the type of person that I want. Do you see the ridiculousness of this? What I'm going to do for this country is going to be the best thing. We're connecting with the working class in America. I don't have time to worry about your purity test or something that I said that, some slight that you found. I'm sorry, get over it. And then just keep pushing. Like, that's what I want.
The thing about letting your enemies define you is that Republicans thought that Biden was that. It's insane because Republicans thought that Biden and Merrick Garland were these insanely authoritarian. Like, Republicans, if they think that Biden and Merrick Garland were rough, wait until we get some sort of Newsom who's actually willing to throw punches. That's what we need. And I love Biden. I loved his presidency. But looking back on it, I think everyone kind of agrees, like, damn, why were they so weak with Merrick Garland and on all of these cases? Yeah. And it just felt we needed a bulldog in there, because even if we don't have a bulldog, we put a chihuahua, they see a bulldog either way.
So I think the word is swagger. We want someone with swagger. Yeah. Right? Like when Obama used to go, just let it roll off your back. Or
Didn't he literally drop a mic one time?
He dropped a mic, and he also did this in the middle of a press conference. I think it was in the middle of a press conference, an interview. He literally did that. But I was so heartened to see him when he spoke out about what he said about Charlie Kirk, and how people should react to it and the country's reaction to it. It was just pitch perfect. It was nice to see a president who actually has command of the English language, who knows grammar and sentence structure.
Yeah. It was nice for once. Who wasn't orange either. Like, Trump spreads concealer all over his face. I know this is like a level 1 critique, but I was looking at a photo of him in 4K this morning, right when I woke up. It was a 4K photo of Trump.
Sorry about
Jump
that.
Scare. And I was like, does this dude actually just rub orange concealer all over his face every morning? Because I used to think it was a spray tan.
You mean bronzer?
Is it bronzer?
I don't know. You said concealer. Concealer lightens up everything.
Oh, I meant bronzer. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. Which is insane to me. But going back to your Obama point, Jasmine Crockett also made a really good point. She said that only 2 white Democrats voted against the Remembrance Day for Charlie Kirk. And Jasmine Crockett's broader point was like, it doesn't seem like a lot of the white Democrats understand the pain inflicted on Black communities when you're rising up. Her phrase was, we've done so much work to get rid of these old artifacts like the Confederate statues. Why are we creating a new one, a new person like Charlie Kirk with these insane views that about the Civil Rights era and about MLK Jr.?
And they didn't get it.
What, the Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day or what?
No. The Democrats, the white Democrats, they didn't get that.
They did not get it.
They don't.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been so adamant about just speaking my mind, using my First Amendment rights to, and playing back Charlie Kirk's own words to tell you why people of color, why Black women have an issue with, getting the National Medal of Honor, have an issue with lowering the flags to half staff, have an issue with calling him a civil rights leader or icon. It's just not so. And even have an issue with people saying, well, he said racist stuff, but he's not racist. It's like, okay, what on earth does that mean?
Yeah. No, this is a debate I just had with Cuomo. He was telling me that Democrats should not be out there talking about what Charlie Kirk said. They should only condemn his shooting, right? And I pushed back. I said, I disagree. I see so many young men right now, not just young men, people of all ages and all genders, but like in my sphere, I see a lot of people who are using Charlie Kirk's death to not only push these beliefs, but there's a broader consolidation of this Christian right-wing movement. You saw this huge event in Glendale, Arizona, of a bunch of young people, right? And it feels like throughout the country, a lot of apolitical people or vaguely Christian people are getting sucked into this pipeline of Charlie Kirk. I have this whole pipeline theory where it's like young men want to go online and get dating advice. They get sucked into the Andrew Tate pipeline. Right. Say a young woman wants to go online and get workout advice. They get sucked into the RFK Jr. Make America Healthy Again. There exists all these pipelines on the internet, and there's a new one now. If you're even vaguely Christian, there's a pipeline over to this Charlie Kirk ideology. And when Cuomo was like, why do you push back so hard when he just died? I'm like, dude, there are people across the country who are getting sucked up into the civil rights the Civil Rights Act shouldn't have existed type of ideology. It's almost a dereliction of duty for me in this space not to be pushing back, using my platform to make sure this isn't happening. And it's just, it's insane to me that we're not allowed to push back on harmful, hateful ideas just because, when MLK Jr. died, 60 years later, Charlie Kirk said he was a bad guy. I disagreed with him, but he shouldn't have gotten assassinated. Like, we could say that about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, about when who died again? You said
MLK.
When MLK died. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up that point because that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard for someone to say that, and out of touch or tone deaf, especially not to understand how people of color and women feel. All you have to do is play back the sound bites of when he said, Sheila Jackson Lee and Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they don't have brain processing power. How insulting that is to women who, all of them, I believe, graduated from Ivy League schools with advanced degrees. And so that's insulting to a lot of people. How do you not talk about this moment without talking about someone's words? We talk about Dr. King's words. I have a dream. I've seen the mountaintop. That's where that came from, right? Malcolm X, by any means necessary. When people die, we take their words, and those words define who they are.
Yep.
Right? What they were thinking, the moments that they helped to shape, the culture that they helped to shape in America. Charlie Kirk said all of those things. So what do they mean? And we cannot ignore them. So that is, that comes from a place of privilege for someone who never, ever has to think about that.
Yeah. And now I'm seeing firsthand, there is this Charlie Kirk-sized hole in the culture that a lot of young men are filling into and becoming more right-wing. When I have liberal friends, people who are, liberal at their core, they voted for Kamala, but they think the Democratic Party has been a little bit suffocating. I had that word used to me a few weeks ago by a liberal friend. He's like, the party just feels suffocating, like I can't be myself. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk and this whole vibe that's going on online, to the average person, it seems like the left just killed one of the right's strongest soldiers who was just out there wanting to have the conversation. That's just how it looks. And a lot of young men are sympathetic to that. And they're going, wow, I'm going to start following Charlie Kirk. And then for me to not push back on that would be insane. It would be privileged for my white ass to be like, yeah, I'm just going to let it go or whatever. We need to be pushing back on, especially this new cultural domination of right-wingism.
Yeah, I don't understand that thinking at all. It's just, it's nonsensical to me.
The line of thinking was that if you undermine your argument when you say Charlie Kirk shouldn't have died, but when you say the word but after, it feels like you are then giving some sort of justification. But I think overall we need to be pushing back on this Charlie Kirk type stuff.
Charlie Kirk shouldn't have died, and he should not have said some of the things that he said in life
and is better
that were offensive to a lot of people, especially people who are not part of the larger culture and people who are a part of an underserved community. And especially the things that he has said about Black people, because Black people have a unique, or African Americans have a unique relationship and experience with this country. We are the only people who came here not voluntarily and through slavery. So if the people who helped to build this country and who have that relationship with this country, who've gone through slavery and lynchings and Jim Crow and all of that, if they tell you that this is offensive, perhaps you should listen rather than trying to ignore it or justify, how you feel about something, or justify your grift.
Yeah, and Charlie Kirk did a lot of this through, so a lot of his overall racist ideology was framed through DEI. He was a huge anti-DEI person, and he used that to downstream push a lot of the stuff about the Civil Rights Act. So his Civil Rights Act argument, I had to go through and watch his whole, because if I'm going on TV arguing about these things, I need to know what he actually said and like what his actual positions are. His whole argument was that the Civil Rights Act allowed this mainstreaming of DEI, and that actually connects perfectly to the clip of him talking about the 3 black women where he's saying insane shit.
But that wasn't even DEI, that was affirmative action, but that's a whole other thing.
That's what, I'm just talking about like what he was saying there. He tries to weave all of this together into this ideology that is kind of like, it's very racist. And one point that he always uses is he says, before the Civil Rights Act, Black Americans committed less crime and there were less single-parent households. So what he's trying to do there is lead the horse to water and say that, maybe America will be better. He's not leading the horse. He's saying it. Maybe America will be better if we were pre-civil rights era, which to me is just insane. Like, he has all of these different arguments that he weaves together.
Well, the whole thing about a single-family household that has no bearing. People used to think that, even I used to think that, it has no bearing on the success of a family or the offspring if someone comes from a single family household. I came from a single family household after my mom was divorced and my father died, and then my dad died. So you can say that I came from a single family household, and everyone in my family turned out to be just fine. Went to college, I graduated, my sister served this country, all of them very successful. So all of that is a lie, and none of that takes away the racial bias and prejudice from the past.
It actually kind of bolsters that argument.
It does. The whole thinking about that is just completely backwards and insane. And by the way, that whole idea about about Ketanji Brown Jackson and all of those guys, all of those women, about it being diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not. It's affirmative action. And what Sheila Jackson Lee was saying, the clip that he uses on the floor of the Congress, is that if not for affirmative action, I may not, or probably would not have been afforded opportunities that I was afforded because of affirmative action. I was qualified, more than qualified. And I know that to be true from the Black women in my family. My mother has a master's degree, this close to a doctorate. She had to raise a family, so she got a divorce. So she had to not drop out of college, but not to finish her doctorate because she needed to feed her family. And so all of these very, talented women like my mother back in the day, the only job that she could get at Exxon was as a secretary. When white women, who are the biggest beneficiary recipient of diversity, equity, and inclusion, while white women would come in, some of them with a high school degree, most of them with not a college degree, and they would go on to become executives or leapfrog the Black women. And you don't know that unless you experience it. It doesn't exist for a lot of people unless it has happened to him. I remember my mom sitting in our living room with Black women from Exxon trying to come up with a plan of how they were going to confront management about not promoting Black women.
Wow.
And this was in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s.
You know what really, number one, that's really powerful. But you know what really pisses me off about Charlie Kirk's ideology when it relates to DEI? He doesn't even understand what DEI is fundamentally. Have you heard that one quote where he's like, I wouldn't let a Black lesbian fly my plane? He said that before.
Yeah, but I heard that, but you wouldn't let a Black lesbian fly my plane, or when I get on a plane and I want it to be a white guy named Chad or something, or whatever he says. And then if I see it like LaQuisha, I don't want her flying. And then people say, oh my God, he was not racist. What is that statement if not racist?
Does he think they just endlessly promote the least qualified people based on skin color? Because that's not what DEI is.
Well, he would be a DEI hire because he was a college dropout.
For real. From my understanding, it's opening the application pool so that people who maybe haven't had the same opportunities earlier on in life then are allowed the opportunity. From there, TSA, the FAA, they're going to make sure that you are damn well trained. It doesn't matter how you got there. Isn't DEI just opening up the application pool, making sure that people have opportunity? He doesn't understand that. I just don't know how you can get to this point. Is it willful ignorance or
No, it's America.
Malignant. Yeah.
It comes from the same people who want to ban books and not teach American history. And so, I mean, it's white supremacy. I mean, that's how I feel.
But he wrapped it in a very palatable way. He wrapped it in a way that was able to be sold to the mainstream masses.
Kimmel, he's back, except Nexstar and what's the other, Sinclair are saying, nope, not going to run him. Not for now. What do you think?
I think that overall, it was an innocuous comment that he should not have gotten struck off air for. The fact that you now have to worry about getting struck off air. Has Jimmy Fallon said anything about this, or has he been quiet about it because he's now worried? Like, I'm pretty sure there's a chilling effect that happens throughout the sphere where it's like, oh, wow, now I'm kind of worried.
He spoke out about it, but I mean, Jimmy Fallon is pretty mild-mannered. He's kind of he's a nice guy. But he has spoken out about it, and I think he was very supportive of Kimmel. Yeah.
I just mean, like, it feels like there's this chilling effect in the broader industry.
What do you mean spoken out about the chilling effect? I have not heard that. I don't think.
No, I just mean, like, it feels like I've seen some other people in the industry a little bit more careful now after that happened. And that's exactly what they want. Even though Kimmel's coming back on the air, they got what they wanted, the Trump administration. They proved via public intimidation that they can create this, environment where you can get pulled off. And then that creates a chilling effect broadly around, the entire sphere.
Yeah. I'll ask you this afterwards. Well, I'll ask you now. Do you, as a younger person, feel like that you have a better insight? Not better insight. You have fresher eyes than older folks. Like I mentioned, David Axelrod, and I see some of the older commentators. They say things on television that feel, so 1950s, or I'm exaggerating, but like so 90s and just outmoded and outdated now.
I think I have fresher eyes in terms of the algorithm because I'm growing up around young men who are getting sucked down this algo, but that doesn't mean that I can't soak in a lot from their experience or filter out what they say. I have a lot of mentors who are like way older than me. And with some of them, eclectic people, you just have to learn what to filter out. You have to learn, like, I probably don't need to use this advice, but this advice really stuck with me. So I think with David Axelrod, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's brilliant.
But he has comments out there, so that's all I can.
He's brilliant, but I've seen him on TV a few times being very risk averse. He needs to stop being risk averse. It's like, do you think? So right now, I keep going back to young men just because that's how I kind of like view things right now, and I'm kind of working on this issue that Democrats are losing young men. Like, do you think young men who play video games and like sports or whatever are going to want a risk-averse, boring party of people who don't take a single risk? No, we want edge. Like what Newsom's doing can appeal to people because it has edge. It has a little bit of oomph to it rather than how safe can I play this?
Yeah, right on. Did you know that this is the rapture today?
That's the raps?
As we are taping this, today is the rapture. A South African pastor named Joshua Malekela said that he saw Jesus in a vision returning on Rosh Hashanah. And this has led to the hashtag Repute Talk. I guess it's Rapture Talk, but it's Repute Talk, and made it go viral on TikTok. Quote, "The rapture is upon us, whether you are ready or not."
It would be really funny if we were like making fun of it, and then we walk outside after this, and there's nobody on the streets, and we're like, "Oh shit!
What happened?
Did we just? Was it real? What did we do?
We just happened to be in the right little zone, and then all of a sudden there's no.
We're just terrible people because you don't get raptured if you're.
That could happen, but then no one would know because they wouldn't be able to watch it.
True. The production all of a sudden goes silent. We're like, wait a minute.
You're a good dude. I like it. I like you, man.
That was fun. Yeah.
Come back and hang out more.
Yeah, let's do it.
Adam Mockler, the Adam Mockler Show, also a commentator on the mighty MeidasTouch Network. Thank you, sir.
That was great. Thank you.